The palace slowly recovered from the last battle. Yet the threat of the rival house lingered. Lyrel and Claire remained vigilant, their bond stronger than ever. They trained daily, refining their skills and planning for any future attacks. Dragon Veyron followed them closely, circling above and watching for any sign of danger. The palace had become a place of quiet preparation, filled with determination and cautious optimism. One morning, scouts reported that a large enemy force was gathering near the outer colonies. They intended to strike with a massive assault. Lyrel immediately summoned her loyal warriors and planned a defense. Claire worked quickly to organize human and Noctis soldiers together, creating strategies that utilized both human ingenuity and Noctis power. Veyron flew over the city, alerting them to any movements and creating diversions with bursts of starlight. The palace was alive with activity as everyone prepared for the impending attack. The enemy arrived at night, their ships dark against the starlit sky. Shadow creatures led the charge, trying to infiltrate the palace. Before the main force arrived, Claire and Lyrel were at the forefront, directing their forces, their movements synchronized with precision. The human demonstrated quick thinking and adaptability, guiding warriors through hidden passages and creating safe paths, while Lyrel unleashed her powers in controlled waves, repelling the enemy. The dragon flew above them, casting light on the battlefield, illuminating allies and scaring off attackers. During the battle, Claire noticed a large device hidden in the enemy's ships. It glowed faintly and interfered with the Noctis energy. Lyrel and Claire realized that it could strip the princess of her power. They had to act quickly. The human led a team to reach the device, while others defended the palace. The team faced heavy resistance. Shadow creatures appeared in great numbers, yet Claire remained calm and focused. She used both human strategy and Noctis knowledge taught by Lyrel to guide the team forward. Veyron provided cover with blasts of starlight, creating openings for the warriors to move. Claire reached the device and destroyed it with a precise strike. The energy dissipated, and the threat to Lyrel vanished. The enemy forces were thrown into confusion, giving the defenders the advantage. Lyrel used the opportunity to lead a counterattack, pushing the invaders back. Each movement was deliberate, each action coordinated. The palace defenders moved as one, their strength multiplied by unity and trust. The rival house's plans began to crumble under the determined defense. The battle raged through the night, yet Lyrel and Claire remained steadfast, their bond allowing them to anticipate each other's actions. The dragon swooped low, protecting the human when enemies approached and giving warnings of unseen dangers. The palace warriors fought with courage inspired by the human and elf, their resolve unwavering. Despite the exhaustion and danger around them, the enemy slowly fell back, unable to overcome the unity of the defenders. After hours of relentless struggle, the enemy was defeated. The palace stood, battered but secure. Lyrel and Claire surveyed the battlefield, their hearts heavy for the loss, but proud of their success. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The human had proven herself capable of facing any challenge, and had helped the Noctis regain freedom from the threats that had haunted them for generations. The palace was safe, and the kingdom could begin to heal. Days passed, and the palace repaired itself. The people returned to their lives, yet the memory of the battle lingered. Lyrel and Claire continued training together, their bond deepening in trust and understanding. They shared quiet moments in the gardens under the starlight, talking of hopes, dreams, and fears. Veyron rested nearby, a constant guardian. Their connection had grown beyond words. It became instinctive, their actions in harmony with each other, ready for any challenge that might come next. The rival house had been weakened, their leaders captured or fled to distant worlds, their influence diminished. The kingdom began to rebuild stronger than before. Lyrell recognized Claire as not only her chosen mate, but also as a partner in leadership. Their decisions made together, and their unity symbolized hope for the entire kingdom. Humans and Noctis worked side by side, learning from each other, sharing skills, and building trust. The palace grew quiet one night. As the twin moons rose over the towers, Lyrell and Claire walked together in the gardens. The stars reflected in the ponds, and the air shimmered with faint starlight. The dragon coiled around them, its eyes alert but calm. They spoke softly about the future they would face. Together, the lessons learned, the battles fought, and the bond that had formed would guide them in shaping a kingdom filled with hope and unity. Claire chose to remain in the Star Kingdom, standing beside Lyrell as a partner. In every sense, they continued to explore the kingdom, discovering hidden places and learning the secrets of starlight together. Veyron remained a loyal companion, guiding them through unknown paths and guarding against any threats. The human and elf had become inseparable. Their bond, a symbol of courage, trust, and the power of unity. The story of Lyrell and Claire closed not with an end, but with a beginning. A promise that the palace would be a place of strength and learning, a symbol of resilience and hope. The human had proven her courage and wisdom, of the elf had discovered the power of trust and partnership together with the dragon. They had shaped a future that would endure, and the starlit kingdom glowed quietly as a beacon for all who would come after them. The rival house had grown bolder, their spies and shadow. Creatures became more frequent. The palace was no longer safe. Lyrell knew she had to prepare for a full assault. She gathered her loyal warriors and trained them tirelessly. Claire was at her side, coordinating teams and practicing new strategies with the dragon Veyron soaring above. They planned for every possible attack and every possible escape route. The air in the palace was tense, with anticipation and silent determination. One night, scouts reported that enemy ships were approaching the capital. The sky darkened as the warships crossed the horizon. The palace prepared for the first wave. Lyrell stood at the top of the highest tower, her hair glowing faintly in. The starlight Veyron circled above her. Wings spread wide. The dragon emitted a low hum of warning. The princess turned to Claire. Knowing the human was ready, she nodded, and together they moved to the central courtyard, where the warriors were. Gathered, their presence was calming, yet filled with authority. The first wave of attackers landed quietly, using cloaking technology. The shadow creatures led the way, trying to create confusion. Among the palace guards, Claire led a group of humans and Noctis warriors, working in harmony to repel the stout attackers. They moved with coordination and precision, each action deliberate and effective. Lyrell unleashed her power, sending waves of energy through the ground that knocked back. The first attackers Veyron soared low, blasting bursts of starlight and fire at the advancing enemies. During the battle, Claire discovered a device hidden among the enemy ships. It glowed faintly with energy that disrupted the starlight bonds of the Noctis. The rival house intended to use it to weaken the princess and seize control the human. Realized the danger immediately, she gathered a small team and moved quickly to destroy the device they faced. Shadow creatures that protected the area. But Claire remained focused and calm, her movements precise and controlled. She cut through, the darkness reaching the device, and shattered it with a single blow. The energy dispersed, and the threat was neutralized. Lyrell fought tirelessly alongside her warriors. Each movement, a combination of grace and power. She sensed every shift in the battle, her mind constantly on Claire and the dragon, their teamwork seamless and instinctive. The rival, the house's leaders, tried to take advantage of the chaos, but they underestimated the bond between the human and the princess. Their forces were gradually overwhelmed by the coordinated defense, and the strength of the Noctis. And their allies. The palace endured attacks on multiple fronts. Shadow creatures attempted to breach the inner walls. But the defenders were ready. They used tactics taught by Claire. Combining human strategy with Noctis power, the dragon Veyron flew over the side, a palace, creating a shield of starlight. The creatures recoiled, unable to pass the radiant barrier. The human and elf together became a symbol of hope for their people, their courage inspiring those who fought by their side. During a brief pause in the fighting, Lyrel spoke to Claire softly. She explained that the prophecy had always foretold the human would come to free the Noctis from the darkness that had lingered for generations. Claire listened carefully, absorbing the weight of her responsibility. She realized her role was not only to protect the princess, but to help bring balance and freedom to the kingdom. The quiet moment strengthened their bond, reinforcing trust and mutual respect. The battle continued into the night. The enemy made one last attempt to seize control. They launched a final wave, trying to breach the central tower. Lyrel and Claire stood side by side, guiding their forces. They moved like shadows, blending. With the light each strike precise and effective, Veyron followed their commands, protecting the skies and giving warnings of hidden dangers. The human and elf fought, not just for themselves, but for the kingdom and everyone within it. After hours of intense struggle, the rival house's forces were defeated, their leaders captured or forced to flee. The palace walls bore marks of the battle. Yet the kingdom had survived. The human had proven herself more than capable. Lyrel was proud, yet relieved. She knew that the prophecy had been fulfilled. In part, the bond between them had grown stronger, and the Noctis had gained a new understanding of the power that came from trust and unity. The palace slowly began to recover. The repairs were made, and the people returned to their routines. Yet the lessons of the battle remained clear. Lyrel and Claire continued their training, now with a deeper understanding of their roles. Together they prepared for any future threats they studied, the texts found in the hidden rooms, searching for ways to strengthen their powers. And the bonds that connected them to the starlight Veyron remained a constant presence, guiding at them through their lessons and guarding the palace. The bond between Lyrel and Claire deepened in the quiet. Moments after the battle, they shared stories of their past hopes and dreams, and fears for the future. They learned to rely on each other instinctively. Their movements and decisions, perfectly aligned, the dragon rested near them, often curling around their feet, creating a protective circle of warmth and trust. The human and elf had become inseparable partners, in every sense of the word. The fourth part of their story ended with the realization that the palace was no longer just a home or a fortress. It had become a place of preparation, and learning, a symbol of unity and resilience. The human had proven her courage and wisdom. The princess had learned the strength of trust and cooperation, and together with the dragon, they had formed a bond that could withstand any future challenge. The night sky over the capital glowed, faintly as if acknowledging the bond and the promise of a stronger future that lay ahead. War arrived quietly to the palace. Shadows moved faster, and the halls were filled with tension. Lyrel sensed danger before anyone else, and immediately began preparing. Claire and Veyron were at her side. The dragon coiled around them, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The enemies were clever. They used darkness to hide themselves, and spies moved silently among the walls. One evening, the shadow creatures appeared again. They slipped through hidden passages and struck at the outer guards. Claire reacted instantly. Her training with Lyrel and Veyron had taught her to move quickly. She drew her blade and faced the creatures without fear. The dragon unleashed starlight that burned softly yet powerfully, driving back the shadows. Lyrel moved beside Claire, her hands glowing with energy that pulsed like distant stars. Together they were a force of calm strength and precision. The battle drew attention of the Noctis warriors, who joined the fight quickly. Some of the nobles realized that the human was not just brave, but skilled. She moved with grace and speed, using both instinct and training. Her presence inspired the warriors to fight harder. Their attacks coordinated with hers. The shadow creatures hissed and tried to retreat, yet each time they approached Claire and Lyrel, they were repelled. The encounter ended with the creatures vanishing into the dark corners of the palace, leaving the defenders cautious yet proud. After the fight, Lyrel took Claire to a quiet room. She spoke softly about the prophecy she had always hidden. The human had been foretold to come, and her spirit was meant to balance the dangerous power of the Noctis. Lyrel explained that the bond they shared was not only personal, but vital for the future of the kingdom. Claire listened carefully. She felt the weight of responsibility settling over her. Yet she also felt trust and connection with the princess. She did not fully understand all the magic, but she believed in the purpose that Lyrel had shared. Over the next days, the palace council grew restless. The rival house saw an opportunity in the human's presence. They believed that Claire could be used to weaken the princess. Some began to plot and whisper among themselves. Lyrel monitored the situation closely. She could not allow her kingdom to fall due to secret schemes. She shared careful pieces of information with Claire and taught her to read the subtle cues and hidden movements of the nobles. It became a lesson in observation and patience. Claire practiced daily in the training halls, learning new techniques and improving her skills. She worked with other warriors, teaching them simple human methods that blended with Noctis strategies. Her calm demeanor and quick thinking earned her respect even from those who doubted her before Veyron was always near guiding her. With silent gestures, the dragon was a patient, teacher, and protector. As Claire learned to coordinate with Lyrel, they created strategies for defense and prediction of attacks. One night, they discovered a hidden room beneath the palace. It contained ancient texts and artifacts, a place of knowledge, long forgotten. Claire carefully examined the writings they spoke of, starlight bonds, and human spirits that could influence the Noctis powers. Lyrel explained that these were clues to the larger destiny they faced, that the human was not only chosen for companionship, but for the ability to help free the kingdom from hidden dangers that had lingered for centuries. During a council meeting, the rival house made its first move, attacking quietly with small sabotage and threats. The palace guards struggled to contain the disruptions. Claire and Lyrel intervened, using strategy and quick thinking. They foiled the attempts and captured some of the intruders. Their method was careful, precise, avoiding unnecessary damage, and demonstrating the growing bond and teamwork between the princess and her human mate. Their actions strengthened the confidence of those loyal to the crown and weakened the influence of the schemers. Outside the palace, rumors began to spread about the human and the elf princess fighting side by side. The stories inspired other humans and Noctis alike. Some began to see that unity was stronger than old rivalries. The news spread slowly through the star kingdoms and neighboring planets, creating a sense of anticipation for what was to come. The alliance between two different worlds became a symbol of hope and courage in a time of fear. In the following weeks, small skirmishes occurred at the borders of the kingdom. The rival house tested defenses, sending spies and shadow creatures to probe weak points. Claire led small teams to counter the attacks she worked closely with, Lyrel coordinating moves and using both human instinct and Noctis precision. The dragon Veyron would often soar above, guiding them and illuminating dark areas. With its scales reflecting starlight, their teamwork became fluid, a dance of courage and strategy. The bond between Lyrel and Claire deepened beyond training and battle. They shared quiet moments in the gardens, talking of hopes and fears, of the past and the unknown future. Veyron rested near them, its presence calming and watchful. They learned to read each other's thoughts and actions, anticipating needs and reactions. The connection became instinctive, a silent communication that strengthened them for the challenges ahead. The third part of the story closed with the realization that the quiet palace had become a place of preparation and vigilance, that Claire was no longer just a human caught in a new world, but a vital participant in the defense and future of the Star Kingdom. Lyrell saw the prophecy slowly unfolding before her eyes. The human, Enamor, the Star Kingdom, was exactly what she had been promised. A spirit, strong and steady enough to balance the powers of the Noctis together. They were readying for greater challenges, and the coming storm that would test all they had learned, and all they would become. Days passed and the palace settled into a strange rhythm. Claire learned the ways of the Noctis and how to navigate the vast halls of the Star Kingdom. She moved carefully through the corridors, watching the servants and guards. Some greeted her cautiously, others avoided her entirely. The human's presence stirred feelings in the court, some of curiosity, some of unease. Lyrell observed everything from a distance, her eyes always on Claire. She felt both pride and fear as she watched the human adapt so quickly. Claire began to explore the palace gardens, often walking alone with Veyron, following quietly behind. The dragon seemed protective, yet calm. She watched the flowers that glowed faintly in the starlight, the fountains that shimmered, and the quiet ponds that reflected the twin moons. She learned the names of the plants, and the hidden paths. She discovered small alcoves, where the stars shone brighter, and where the wind whispered secrets of the ancient kingdom. In these moments, she felt peace, but she knew danger was never far. One evening, while practicing with a wooden blade, a group of young Noctis nobles approached them. They were arrogant and jealous of the attention Claire received. They mocked her with faint smiles and sharp words, trying to provoke a reaction. Claire remained calm. She did not fight. She did not respond. Instead, she continued to practice her movements, fluid and precise. Lyrell appeared behind her, silently observing the interaction. She felt a flicker of approval for Claire's restraint and courage. It was a lesson to the nobles that strength was not always in anger, but in control. The next day, the palace council gathered secretly. Many feared the presence of the human would destabilize the kingdom. The rival houses whispered against Lyrell, plotting ways to challenge her decision. The princess knew she could not ignore reasoning about Lycrow. About Lycrow's forgether. For them she called a private meeting with her most trusted advisors, and Claire was allowed to sit in silence, listening, her mind absorbing the names of those who were enemies and those who could be trusted. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. Lyrell began to reveal fragments of the prophecy she had kept hidden. The human would come to change the fate of the Noctis. The words were ancient and powerful. Claire listened with care, absorbing the gravity of her role. She did not fully understand the depth of the magic or the starlight that flowed through the elf woman. Yet she felt a connection that could not be broken. Even the dragon Veyron sensed the importance of the words and coiled protectively around them. The palace became a place of hidden lessons and quiet preparation. Claire learned to use the starlight flowing through her veins to strengthen her body and mind. Lyrell taught her the subtle movements that could shift energy and the ways to anticipate danger. Before it arrived, they spent long hours in the gardens, practicing and learning the ways of trust and cooperation. The dragon would soar above them in silent watchfulness at times, circling low to provide guidance and encouragement. One night, a shadow moved across the courtyard. Figures slipped silently from the walls, creatures that seemed to flicker, in and out of sight. Claire sensed them immediately. She drew her blade and stood ready. Lyrel appeared beside her. Calm, yet alert, Veyron hissed and coiled low. The creatures circled them, their forms dark and strange. But when they saw the unity of the human and elf, they retreated into the shadows. This encounter marked the beginning of an unseen threat that would grow stronger in time. Over the following weeks, the palace staff began to change their views of Claire. They saw her courage and honesty, and slowly respect began to grow. She helped in small tasks, shared her knowledge, and often comforted those who were afraid. The simple human gestures began to bridge the gap between worlds. She learned the subtle ways of the Noctis language and their customs, yet she kept her own identity and strength, which drew Lyrel closer to her in admiration. Lyrel often watched Claire in the quiet of the night, her thoughts filled with both worry and hope. The prophecy had pointed to a human with a strong spirit, and that spirit was growing before her eyes. She knew that the challenges ahead would require not just strength, but understanding, and the courage to face the unknown. The bond between them deepened each day, a connection of trust and silent promise. The dragon Veyron remained, their silent companion, a guardian and teacher. The palace walls hid more than whispers, and plots hidden. Passages and secret rooms held the potential for both danger and discovery. Claire explored carefully, each room teaching herself the history and secrets of the Noctis. She began to notice signs of unrest among some servants, strange notes, and quiet glances, hinting that not all welcomed the human's presence. She reported everything to Lyrel, who would nod in understanding, knowing that the human was already proving herself a careful observer and ally. A festival of lights approached. The princess decided that Claire would join her publicly, to show the strength of their bond. The human would stand beside her, as the chosen mate. Lyrel hoped this display would strengthen her position, and show the court that unity and courage mattered more than tradition. The day came, and the palace shimmered with starlight and celebration. The people watched the princess and her human with awe, and whispered of what the future might hold. Claire felt a mixture of fear and excitement she did not fully understand the significance. But she trusted Lyrel, and the quiet lessons of the dragon Veyron guided her steps. Her calm presence and willingness to learn impressed the spectators and shifted the mood. Many who had doubted began to see the potential in the human and elf partnership. It was a quiet victory, yet powerful. It marked the beginning of a deeper trust, and the first step toward facing the greater challenges that lay ahead. The night ended with the moon high, and the stars reflecting in the gardens, and the bond between Lyrel and Claire quietly growing stronger. The distant star kingdom of Noctis shimmered in the black velvet of space, its towers and spires reaching out like silver fingers. The air around the capital glowed with faint starlight, which the Noctis people drew for their strength. At the 2020, the heart of this kingdom lived Princess Lyrel, an elf woman with pale skin, faint glowing markings, and eyes that held the depth of galaxies. Her presence was quiet but commanding. She walked through the palace halls with grace and a calmness that made others pause. When she entered a room, the light seemed to follow her. She was never seen without Veyron, her dragon companion, a slender silver-scaled creature whose eyes mirrored the stars above. Veyron moved with quiet precision, often resting its head on the princess' shoulder. As they passed through corridors, the kingdom had been at peace for decades, but whispers of tension now drifted in the air. Lyrel often sensed unease, even when no one spoke. On this day, the grand hall of the palace buzzed with unusual activity. Nobles and counselors gathered to witness a rare event: the arrival of a human from the far reaches of known space. Claire, a young human warrior, had been captured during a skirmish at the outer colonies. She was strong and quick-witted. The story of her capture had spread quickly, and the court waited in curiosity or in fear. As the princess approached the dais, Lyrell kept her expression calm. Her mind was elsewhere, thinking of the prophecy she had long kept hidden. The words of an ancient seer echoed in her mind. A human would come, who could alter the destiny of the Noctis, whose heart was unbound by starlight, and whose courage would shine, like the core of a star. When Claire was brought forward, the room fell silent. She was dressed in simple clothes, but her posture was confident. She scanned the room without fear or hesitation. Her gaze met Lyrell's briefly, and a shiver ran through the onlookers. Many were nobles and warriors who had never seen a human who held such strength in her calm presence. Lyrell stepped forward, Varen coiling its long body gracefully behind her. The dragon's scales caught the light and cast reflections across the hall. The princess spoke softly, her voice calm, yet carrying authority. She said, "Claire will be my chosen mate." A hush fell over the assembly. The words were simple, but carried weight. They were filled with meaning that no one but Lyrell could fully understand. Some gasped, some whispered, some stared blankly. It was unheard of. For a Noctis princess to choose a human, this choice was dangerous and bold. It challenged old traditions and threatened the balance of power in the court. Claire felt her heart beat faster, but she remained composed. She did not understand why the princess chose her. Yet there was a strange feeling in her chest, a pull that made her want to trust the elf woman. She kept her head high and nodded. Respectfully, she did not speak. She did not need to speak. Lyrell could feel the unspoken answer, and a small flicker of relief passed through her. After the ceremony, Claire was escorted to a quiet wing of the palace. Her room, simple yet comfortable. It overlooked the gardens which glowed faintly in the starlight. She found a small table with notes about the Noctis and their customs. I began to read, trying to understand the world. She was now part of the nights, were long and quiet. She often felt Varen slinking around her room, keeping watch. Even when she moved through the halls, she felt its presence. She learned to sense the subtle changes in the palace, the quiet tension, the secret glances of nobles, and the hidden corridors that led to unknown places. Lyrell observed Claire from a distance, often watching her practice with a wooden blade or walking in the gardens. The princess felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. The prophecy had pointed to a human with a strong spirit. But could Claire truly carry the weight of what lay ahead? The kingdom was not safe. Enemies plotted in silence. Rival houses whispered against the crown, and shadowy creatures lurked in hidden places. Some believed the human would bring ruin. Others believed she was the key to survival. Over the next days, Claire began to interact with the palace staff. She was polite and respectful. Her simple questions and honest manner drew people to her. Some were still wary, yet many began to see her as a bridge between worlds. Her presence reminded them of the strength of humans and the endurance that came from their spirit. She trained daily with Noctis warriors, learning their ways, but also sharing her own techniques. Her courage inspired others. And slowly, the tension in the palace shifted from fear to cautious hope. Lyrell and Claire often met in the garden. Varen always nearby. Resting among the glowing flowers, the princess began to speak more openly, revealing fragments of her past. Her doubts and the prophecy she had hidden for so long. She explained that the human was foretold to come and that the bond they shared would shape the future of the Noctis. Claire listened, quietly, absorbing the weight of responsibility, and slowly feeling a connection with Lyrell that went beyond duty. The dragon would circle above them, sometimes resting on the ground, watching them with bright, intelligent eyes. Outside the palace, news of the human chosen by the star vampire princess spread quickly. The neighboring worlds whispered of strange alliances and dangerous possibilities. Merchants and travelers spoke in hushed tones of the elf woman and her human companion, some with fear, some with excitement. The kingdom of Noctis had always been a place of mystery. But now, the story of the princess and her human mate captured the imagination of all who heard it. One night, a small disturbance arose in the gardens. Shadow creatures appeared, flickering in and out of the starlight. Claire drew her weapon and faced them without fear. Lyrel stepped beside her. Veyron coiled protectively around them. Creatures hissed and retreated at the sight of the dragons, bright scales, and the courage of the human. Together they held their ground. The encounter was brief, but it marked the beginning of a greater challenge. The palace was no longer safe. Even within its walls, hidden enemies lurked, and danger was closer than anyone realized. The bond between Lyrel and Claire grew quietly yet steadily. Each passing day brought understanding, trust, and a sense of shared purpose. The princess began to teach Claire the ways of the Noctis, the meaning of starlight, and the subtle control of energy that flowed through their veins. Claire learned quickly. Her human intuition, blending with the ancient wisdom of the elf woman Veyron, became their silent teacher and guardian, guiding them through challenges and warning them of hidden threats. The first part of their story ended not with a battle, but with the calm before the storm. A time of learning and growing, a time of watching and waiting, a time where two souls from different worlds began to weave together a destiny that would shake the foundations of the Star Kingdom. Lyrel looked at Claire one evening as the twin moons rose over the towers. She felt a flicker of hope that perhaps together they could face whatever the future held.